everyone. So I'm delighted to be here, joined today by Andy Stewart, and we're going to be talking about his life philosophy of life is a sine curve. Andy, nice to see you. You okay?
See you. Thanks for joining me.
Well, it's great to see you. And so life is a sine curve. What does that mean? Just tell us a little bit about what that means.
This is brilliant. This goes back right to early 2017, and I'd had dinner with a friend, and we're at the bar afterwards with a beer, and he was asking me what it's like to run a 100-miler, and that's when the notion first came into my head. Running a 100-mile race is a sine curve, right? You have ups, you have downs, peaks and troughs. When you're feeling really dark and empty and lost, but you just know you're going to get to the end, right? And then you've other times in the race, an hour later, you can feel on top of the world. And so that's when the notion of life as a sine curve came around. And that's the first time I actually verbalized that expression. And then I thought afterwards, do you know what? Life is a sine curve. And then I started thinking, actually, this applies to all of our lives in a wider way, really.
So when you picture life is a sine curve, so I guess that's the curve like that.
Yeah.
So how might that apply? Just talk through, let's say, the 100-miler, and then let's look at another example.
Yeah, so a 100-miler, you're probably starting at the top of a crest, right? Because you're there with 200 other people, buzzing atmosphere, music going at the start, great. And then you get a couple of hours in and you whatever. But there will come a point where you start feeling tired.
Yeah.
You're running out of energy. You don't want to eat. You're feeling pretty poor, whatever. We've all been there. And then it gets to the point where you're feeling really, really bad. Anybody who's done a 100-miler, I'd be surprised if you're not hallucinating at some point.
Okay.
When you're in that kind of spot, you're pretty much at a dip. But everybody, you just keep going. You keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then you start picking up. And then as I was thinking about this in my head as well, this is the same as the seasons, right? Life is a sine curve, right? So you have summer, autumn, winter, and spring. And that is the sine curve philosophy as well. So the very first post I wrote, I kind of compared the sine curve to the four seasons, really.
Yeah, and I looked at that on your website earlier as well, because I know you've been in the agricultural world for many years, so it kind of plays. So how do the seasons play through in the agricultural world? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, whether you're a dairy farmer, I'm into dairy, but whether you're dairy, you're arable, winter is tough, right? There's not much growing. All the hard work has probably been done sowing your crops earlier in the previous year, and then you come through to spring, things start growing again. That's when things start popping out of the ground. You get your tails up.
You're going from the bottom of the sine curve coming up. So the bottom's the winter, and then you're starting coming up in the spring. Okay.
Yeah, the days get lighter earlier. You've got a bit more energy. We're all there's work to be done, right?
Yeah.
And then you're up into your summer. You're full of beans. And
then you got on the down curve is the autumn.
Yeah, and the really important part for me, Neil, is that when you're up there in the summer and you're feeling great, you kind of know that this is going to come to an end, right? And you shouldn't push against that because that's just life, right? So
interesting. Okay.
Enjoy the good times while they're there, and it's not that you're being negative, but they will stop, and then the autumn will come in, and then you'll be in the midst of winter. So you kind of know that at different points in your life you're going to feel up and down, and it's absolutely fine to be up, and it's absolutely fine to be down, and it's totally normal, really.
So are there any other areas of life where you think life is a sine curve also applies? Does it apply to your career or to your personal life or to your love life? Are there other places where it applies as well?
Personally, I think it applies to all of my life anyway, because the philosophy is true, with our partners, our close family, our friends, whatever, nothing stays constant, right? So, and it tends to be what I call a sine curve. I kind of stretch it a bit. Sometimes the good times are it's not strictly a sine curve, the good times are over broader.
What do they call that? It's the amplitude. The amplitude is...
That's right, yeah. And conversely, sometimes the bad times are really bad and wow, you're down in a dark place. But the trick is to keep on going because you do believe that it will improve at some point.
So life is a sine curve, applies to lots of areas of life. So there's cycles, there's ups and downs, highs and lows. The amplitude can be big, the amplitude can be low. But I guess what's in my mind is, so what? How can you use that methodology, that philosophy to help you with whatever it is, whatever area of your life you're looking at? How could it be helpful?
I think the trick is, the starting point is, life is a sine curve, is a journey, and for any journey you need to know where you're heading, right? So I think from my own experience, you gave me a book back in early 2017, Are You Fully Charged, by Tom Rath.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that an awesome tool, right, to help me define my own purpose. And once I knew my own purpose, which from that book was to be the best person I can possibly be and to help those people around me be the best they can be, then things became a lot simpler in my head because I kind of knew where I was going. Mm-hmm. And then life is a sine curve, is the journey for you or anybody on the journey towards your purpose or your goal.
So can you assess where you are on the curve in, I don't know, your career or your relationships or your running? Is there a way of assessing where you are on the curve?
You can. I suppose it depends how goal orientated you are, how you set your own benchmarks. I'm quite goal orientated. I think anybody in sport, exercise is. Work I am as well. So I set benchmarks into my head as to where I want to be on different topics, and I assess my own personal performance. But I suppose next to that is the subjective, how do I feel about everything? Do you know what I mean? So I mean, the problem with how do you feel is, you can have good days and bad days, and they can change from day to day. If you can just stand back, give yourself a bit of distance, a bit of perspective on where you are towards your purpose, your goal, and stand back and just take a fresh look every now and again. I think that's really helpful.
Are there strategies that you could adopt? So if you know you're coming out of summer, going into autumn, are there strategies that you could adopt that might shorten the winter? Or
absolutely. I mean, one thing I think we all do in ultra running events, we scenario plan, right? Mm-hmm. So your kit breaks, you lose something, whatever. I personally, in mind, well, my wife tells me I think too much about it, but I like to scenario plan. Is you're heading into winter, it's going to be tough. You've got some big goals to hit, work-wise, family-wise, whatever they might be. What can go wrong, and try and plan in my head what goes wrong, and then you can minimise the effects of those negative things that might go on around you. And focus on positives, and hopefully keep the amplitude for that down moment as small as possible. Or
I like you said earlier, you know that after summer follows autumn follows winter, so it's coming, and no matter how much you might think it's always going to be summer, you just have to look at the financial markets. It's never always going to be summer. Or you look at your career, or you look at your customers. So I guess, and what you had talked about the agricultural world earlier. So in the agricultural world, in the summer, they are preparing to make the winter as comfortable as possible, aren't they? By storing food or preparing indoor facilities or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, they're making sure that on the dairy side there's enough feed for the stock for the winter. On the arable side, they're sowing ready for the spring. So you're always planning ahead, and I think if we can all stand back and have a bit of perspective, and just I think life as a sine curve helps me have a bit of perspective about what's coming on in the seasons to come, because we're all busy, right? Especially at the moment with COVID, a lot of us are home working in front of laptops, umpteen hours a day. You kind of, everything's a little bit immediate, and it's perhaps we're missing the opportunity to actually stand back and get that sense of perspective, travel, get out and about, and whatever.
Yeah, and I guess so too. If you know you're in winter, then you know that spring and summer is following, which is a positive feeling. But how do you make sure you make the most of that spring and summer, and it doesn't go past quickly without you not making the most of it or not enjoying it?
Exactly, or getting stuff done now. Don't put stuff off to the spring or the summer when you want to be doing something else and out and about and doing other stuff. Yeah. The stuff you can do now, get it done now, so you're freeing up your mind and your time for other things that are perhaps more pleasurable, enjoyable, that you want to do.
So I think, so the theory of life is a sine curve. I get that now, and I get why that philosophy makes sense and why you've built that. So you've been writing blogs now for 3 years plus on your site. What's been the drive and inspiration behind writing blogs?
Well, for those people that don't know us, I mean, you've coached me in a previous life, and one thing you said to me was about leadership. You need to be visible. If you've got something you want to share, well, then you need to be public and actually share it. So that I never saw myself as a blogger. But you gave me the confidence to step out of my comfort zone and to do it. And I suppose my initial blogs were about life as a sine curve as a philosophy, but about touched on some business elements I was looking at, and a little bit on running. But then as I've got older, I'm 53 now, and when I turned 50, I thought, I really want to be super fit at 50. So that became a bit of a theme for my blogs. How can I help other people, regardless of whatever their fitness level might be, just be as good as we can be at 50, right? I mean, I feel as energetic now as I did when I was 30. I know I'm not, but in my head I feel I am, and I just want to just try and stay as fit, mentally, physically, agile as I can during this decade, really.
Yeah. So the inspiration for writing the blogs was you've got something to say and you want to help other people be the best they can be, was the word you used in terms of your purpose. So, and then the super fit at 50, I was going to ask you about that because that's a theme that's running through the blogs. Yeah. So what do you want people to take away from those blogs that you've been writing? What do you hope people will do differently as a result?
I hope they actually read it, find it interesting, and take some action, right, to try and be the best they can be. I mean, just a few life events for me during the journey. My dad died 11, 12 years ago. My mum was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it all happened quite quickly when I was 50. And then I had a bit of a health scare myself. And all these things, and they happen to everybody, right? Because this is just normal life stuff, right? It just makes you realize that life is really finite, right? So you want to get the best out of every single bloody day that you can, because let's just enjoy it. It's precious. So if somebody can take one or two snippets here or there that just might resonate with them and help them be better at whatever they want to achieve, I'd feel really, really chuffed with that.
Brilliant. So basically, we've understood the theory of life is a sine curve. You are somewhere on that curve of highs, lows, winter, summer, and you've been writing the blogs to inspire people to be the best they can be, which you can find on lifeisasincurve.com. Is there one final message you'd like to leave the audience with as we wrap up?
I'd just like to thank anybody that's taken the trouble and that's invested the time to actually read any of the posts. And if you found them interesting, helpful, brilliant, thank you for that. And please perhaps share the link with anybody else that you might find might think they might find it relevant.
Brilliant. Okay. Thanks, Andy. It's been great talking to you this morning, and wish you all the best with being the best.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Take care.